Greetings, Commanders! This is Genesis, and welcome to a little tips and tricks on the first Mass Effect game of the Legendary Trilogy. Obviously, some of these tips will be able to apply to the original Mass Effect game, but there are some new features that come along with the Legendary version, so you can expect to hear about those too. And if this is your first time jumping into Commander Shepard's shoes, don't worry, this is free of story spoilers, and we'll be focusing on gameplay tips and such. So let us relay jump to this many tips and tricks I wish I knew before playing Mass Effect 1, the original and Legendary Edition. One of the most incredible things about the Mass Effect series as a whole is that your actions as Commander Shepard will have rippling consequences throughout the rest of the games if you're choosing to bring your character through all three. Even though you can start anywhere in the series and kind of get the gist of what's going on, there will be many special consequences throughout the second and third game if you bring the Shepard you played as from the first. Be aware that some of these do take a long time for an actual payoff, but in a lot of cases there will still be one. There were quite a few features that came with the first game in Legendary Edition that aren't present at all in the original. One of these is the choice between Legendary or Classic mode. Legendary mode lets you rack up experience a lot more quickly, so you don't have to do multiple playthroughs of Mass Effect 1 to get to around level 50. Classic mode just keeps the level game how it used to be in the first game, which encouraged playing through again in New Game Plus to max out your level. I'll recommend Legendary mode every single time because you have a trilogy to play. And while the first game did get the most visual attention and some quality of life stuff, mechanically I think it's safe to say that the second and third game are leaps and bounds better. And also, if you want to play both sides of Shepard's alignment, Paragon once and Renegade second, I imagine you'll want to crush the game the second time anyway. Speaking of changes, when it comes to the Legendary Edition, there is a control toggle for the Mako Land Rover that you can drive around on terrestrial areas, and this basically switches it from tank controls to directional controls. It's more a matter of preference, and I honestly can't tell you which one is better, but the toggle is there in your options if you need it. Last I want to talk about with the new features is, yes, there has been a lot of visual improvements with the first game, and along with that came photo mode, which is also available through the rest of the games now. In Legendary Edition, there will be a new button in the menu towards the bottom that says photo mode, and that's how you activate it. I didn't play around with it too much. This is your standard photo mode fare. It comes with color correction, field of view, things you would expect from a photo mode, and the ability to remove all characters from the shot if you're looking to just get some cool shots of the environments that you come across in Mass Effect. And there are a lot of beautiful views and different atmospheres to experience. Mass Effect 1 relies on a lot of discovery to find different objectives, and that could be just talking to NPCs and getting missions from them, or examining objects and getting information on areas you can explore once you hit the galaxy map. So if you do find terminals with the ability to activate, chances are also high that it will lead you to a location of interest. A side note on the, dare I say, massive amount of things you can discover in Mass Effect 1. You can not only gain objectives from discoveries and conversations with non-player characters, but also experience. Simply learning about the Mass Effect universe can net you more experience from whomever you meet, and possibly even level you up as you get more immersed in the Mass Effect universe. One of the options in your menu is the Codex, and is a wonderful tool to learn the Mass Effect universe and its various life forms, cultures, and technology. If you are brand new to the series and have questions related to these things, chances are there will be a Codex entry to read or listen to. Throughout your exploration of the galaxy, you will gain more Codex entries as you go. It is rare that this much time is spent on voice work for world building. So at the very least, check out that primary tab because it's totally worth it if you want to get immersed. The Citadel is the main hub in the game, and where you'll spend a good chunk of your hours there if you're looking to complete objectives. On the Citadel, the Wards District is where you will locate the Med Clinic. Here, early on, you can find armor modifications that will greatly help your survivability and keep you from using too much metagel to keep yourself alive before, during, and after combat. Something that will improve your life and Shepard's life, by extension, is the medical interface mod for their armor. Once it is equipped, it will grant a passive HP regen, saving you on so much metagel in between fights. Speaking of modifications, we move over to weapons, and there are a lot of different types of ammunition to talk about, but I would like to specifically bring up the anti-organic and anti-synthetic ammunition, anti-personnel and anti-armor, respectively. These I recommend you swap on the fly, and you can, even in the middle of combat. The first game splits it down the middle pretty well on which type of enemies you will be encountering between synthetics and organics, but the important part is to swap your ammo when you find out who you're fighting. This becomes more important as you're playing the game on harder difficulties. If you're playing on normal, probably don't need to worry about it as much, but veteran and onwards, the ammo type you choose does make a world of difference in how much time the battle is going to take. And late into the game, the damage bonuses you'll be getting with this ammunition gets up into the 40% range, and I don't need to tell you how massive of a boost that is to your damage. It's 40%. I want to talk about team management for a little bit. That's both assembling your team and working with them in a combat scenario. So in this example, my version of Shepard is biotics focused, leaving no room for engineer abilities. So it was ultimately more beneficial bringing along characters that would complement my build rather than just stack a whole bunch of biotic energy, which is awesome and terrifying for the enemy, but I would lose out on the tech side, and there are a lot of containers and terminals to bypass. Since I had no tech to speak of, I brought someone along who did, so I could break into anything we came across, often resulting in more loot. This is recommended purely as a gameplay standpoint. When it comes to narrative, that's up to you. But it appears as though Mass Effect 1 was built around complementary skills between teammates. Another thing about teammates is their AI in combat is not terribly great. So one thing I would suggest, so they're not just getting in your way when you're trying to shoot something around cover and they're just standing in front of your reticle, is to send them to another point with your commands preemptively. Ideally behind cover, unless you're just trying to incapacitate them so they're completely out of the way. Oh, and if it's not set already, set them to always use their skills. Unless you like micromanaging them on the ability wheel, I personally like to be active in combat myself and let the AI kind of do their own thing, dumb as they are sometimes. And I'd rather they were generous with the damage dealing rather than conserving their abilities and just waiting for Shepard to give the order. Merchants and vendors throughout Mass Effect will sometimes have licenses that they sell down towards the bottom of their inventory. These licenses let the quartermaster on your ship sell some of these things from those manufacturers, saving you a trip to the Citadel market if you're in dire need of some basic equipment. Additionally, merchants will sometimes have permanent increases to metagel or grenade capacity for sale too. So it's always good to check the bottom of their inventory first, especially if it's your first time there. These upgrades and licenses are always worth getting because sometimes there's no guarantee that that merchant will still be where they were. When you start off and first start looting throughout Mass Effect, you'll get the option of converting items into Omnigel. Unwanted items can be converted into Omnigel 4 per item you decide to break down. And Omnigel's primary use is bypassing hacking minigames, and to a lesser degree, used to repair the Mako rover. If you've got no problem doing things manually when it comes to electronics and decryption, converting items into Omnigel probably won't even be necessary. I will say there are exceptions to this rule, and they are story-related puzzles that a lot of you probably won't want to be bothered with, so keep a small stock of about 100 Omnigel on you just in case. So as a result, I will strongly recommend selling equipment over converting it into Omnigel, because fairly often you may find that you're not getting the gear you need just from looting stuff, and will need to purchase it from merchants who charge a premium. As the galaxy opens up, both money and resources will even out, and if you go out of your way to explore and complete as much as you can find, you're likely to gain a surplus of both, but early on, credits are more valuable than Omnigel. Terrestrial maps don't always show every point of interest. After dropping in on the Mako to explore planetside, sometimes you can find mineral deposits and get credits if you survey them. Unlike scanning unexplorable planets, sometimes there's multiple deposits on planets that let you explore with the Mako. The amount you gain from these deposits is also determined by your level, so the higher your level, the more thousands of credits you will get by finding these deposits. So keep your eyes peeled for that extra funding if you need it. Something I learned about the Mako is that even though it has some gnarly firepower, there was a concern in my mind that there was a experience reduction when it came to kills with the Mako's overpowered cannon. You'll be pleased to know that this is not the case. Any situation where you can use the Mako to take out enemies, there is no experience penalty whatsoever, as opposed to taking them out on foot. So enjoy using that Mako cannon to ragdoll your enemies. If you are a completionist, you'll probably be swimming in items by the end of the game. Just so you know, there is a 300 item limit for the inventory, and it doesn't seem like it tells you up until you hit 250, and then it won't shut up about it. So this is the point where I recommend turning what you don't want into Omnigel, because you're probably good when it comes to credits at this point. But I just figured if any of you are worried of reaching some sort of inventory limit, there is a really generous one, and the game will tell you way early if you're approaching that limit. There were more changes, no doubt, when taking your character from Mass Effect 1 to Mass Effect 2. Besides the unified character customization, you can take the exact same looking character in the first game and take them all the way to the third game. But what is also cool is it seems like the resource and credit bonuses were increased as well when you start the second game with an imported character. This is a huge jumpstart for Mass Effect 2, and is another thing to look forward to besides your romantic interest, whoever they were in the previous game. Now, I open the floor to you to share your tips and tricks in regards to Mass Effect 1 down in the comments below. There's a lot of awesomeness that happens in the Mass Effect series, and some changes that may not have been explicitly stated, but have made it into the Legendary Edition of the game. Thank you to Wasteland Legends Sven and my buddy Jared at Jared Gaming for their contributions to these tips, Sven for being a patron as well, and to the rest of the patrons on screen now. They are wonderful. And if you, like them, wish to have your name immortalized in the credits and get some personal monthly updates from me via Patreon, you can check that out linked down below. As little as $1 helps the channel greatly. Thanks so very much for watching. I'm Kato Genesis, and may you wander the galaxy like you own it.